I'm now being joined by Dr. Sabri Saidam, Deputy Secretary General of Fatah Central Committee. Thank you so much for joining us. Hamas has confirmed that it is discussing the US-Qatar ceasefire proposal with other Palestinian factions. Is Fatah holding talks with Hamas on the agreement in place at the moment?
Well, it's good to be with you. No, the short answer is no. There's no talks, no direct talks with Hamas, but certainly there's talks with the interlocutors in the Middle East, definitely the Qataris, the Egyptians, and most importantly, contact with the Americans to assess the situation as it were. And we were hoping that the culmination of the discussion would surface during the Netanyahu-Trump meeting, in which we were told that Trump was very close to announcing a ceasefire. It looks like there's last-minute hiccups that delayed such a process.
So you're hopeful that a ceasefire will come into place through the discussions that you've been having. Is there any more you can tell us what's holding up the ceasefire being announced?
Well, let me say, just to clarify, that we have not been holding any direct discussions. As you know, I did say that we're in discussion with the interlocutor to assess the situation and see as to where the discussion has taken us. But indeed, yes, we are quite encouraged by the optimism that prevailed so far. We would like to see a cessation of hostilities, and we'd like to see anything that saves our people's lives. So what's holding this back is maybe last-minute hiccups, as I said, that are manifesting themselves by the lack or the impotence of the American administration will to reveal a plan to basically address the day after. And Israel's inability to answer big questions such as the flow of goods and support and the reconstruction material for Gaza, and also who rules Gaza, which remains to be the big question at hand.
Earlier, I was discussing Israel's defense minister announcing plans to move Gaza's population to a camp in the southern city of Rafah. Now, what do you make of these plans to build what my guest was saying to me earlier, a humanitarian city to help the people of Gaza? Do you agree with this sentiment?
Imagine, would the Palestinian ever agree to such a sentiment? This is nothing but really getting more into the mud. Israel is basically committing war crimes. It is insisting on committing yet more crimes by displacing Palestinians, by deciding the type of oxygen Palestinians are to breathe, and by dividing Palestine in such a manner that even Netanyahu and Trump were rejoicing last night by saying to each other that, yes, we will displace Palestinians. Yes, we have talked to partners in the region, rather, and some of them are willing to displace Palestinians. And yes, they're continuing with their Riviera project. So if anything, Israel is getting more and more into the mud of the scene. And Trump is not helping. Trump in every way is aiding Netanyahu, is supporting Netanyahu. And to add this to this misery is the fact that Netanyahu is nominating the fugitive from the criminal court, is the International Criminal Court rather, is nominating Trump to the basically the Nobel Prize. What kind of a prize is this, where a fugitive is nominating the person who's providing him with weaponry and providing him with decision to continue with this war? It is a shamble, it is a disgrace, and this is nothing but a manifestation of the insistence of the two to play a role that is devilish, that is full of intention to destroy Palestinian aspirations and dreams.
So more than 57,500 people have been killed in Gaza since the attack on the 7th of October that was carried out by Hamas. How much longer can Palestinian parties like Fatah continue to allow the people to suffer? Why aren't you doing enough?
Well, let me say that this was not our making, as you know, and as you pointed out to it. And we have been, since day one, trying to pressure all parties to end the hostilities, to save the Palestinian blood, and also to salvage what remains of Gaza. But indeed, Netanyahu has other ideas. Remember, the 7th of October was in every way possible for Netanyahu an excuse to continue with his earlier plan. This did not come into being all of a sudden. He's been planning for 30 years the issue of displacing Palestinians, and he's doing that in the West Bank, by the way, not only in Gaza, and the issue of exterminating Palestinian presence on the geography of Palestine. So what is happening is an implementation of a much bigger project. This is not a war that's being settled. This is not a revenge that's being paid. It's rather a plan that is fixated on the idea of eliminating Palestinians, of changing the Middle East, as Netanyahu has repeatedly announced, and drawing plans that are in every way possible conducive to the prevalence of the plan of the right-wing parties of Israel to see no Palestinians and to continue to rule the Middle East on the basis of commercial merit, of continuation of the State of Israel on the blood and flesh of Palestinians at large.
Doctor, there's a question that I want to ask you. I want to say, you were saying that there's nothing in place for the day after the ceasefire. And this is a big concern when it comes to these talks between the US, Israel, Hamas, indirect talks or direct talks. What is your party calling for the day after the ceasefire happens? What is your solution to end this war and to save the Palestinian people?
Well, our solution has come handy. We have formulated a plan. We have presented the plan to the Arab Summit last March. It was approved by the Arab Summit. It was then taken to the Muslim countries. It was approved by the League of Muslim Countries. And it was welcomed initially, at least by the American administration, only to see Netanyahu have other ideas. Netanyahu resumed the war back on the 18th of March and decided to basically turn the table upside down. So he has destroyed the plan and is now saying no to a Palestinian state, which was part of the plan, and no to the presence of the Palestinian Authority, which was part of the plan again. And there's no way he would accept, as he calls it, Hamasistan and Fathistan, meaning that he will never, ever entertain even the thought of Fateh being included in the discussion, let alone the plan to govern Gaza. So Netanyahu is to blame, and Netanyahu has destroyed such a plan. But we remain persistent and we remain adamant to see the plan being implemented, since we see it as the only formidable formula for the way forward.
Netanyahu would blame Hamas, but Dr. Sabri Saidam, thank you so much for joining us. I appreciate your insights.